Right, we've got a Data East Revision 2 CPU board on the bench, and the nice surprise is no corrosion. I'm always seeing these with corrosion at the moment. This one looks to be in pretty nice condition. Back as well is pretty good. We've got a little bit of mess here we need to clean up. Someone's done a pretty bad job of soldering those transistors on. Big solder blobs, that's kind of not good. There's a couple of connectors to clean up. That's a nice board. Now, what we've got is we've got some solenoid problems. I've already been through and tested the CPU controlled solenoids. As it's a revision 2, we've got the switch controlled solenoids for pop bumpers and kickers and so on. I suspect the problem's going to be around here, so we'll test that out properly. Right, I've managed to remove the nastily soldered transistors. I'll give it a bit of a clean up with some isopropyl. Now, it's an absolute shame because this is a really nice condition board. Other than this, you can see the person who's done this soldering, they've actually burnt the board and they've ripped out the through holes. That's in pretty poor condition there. We'll do our best to tidy it up and patch it up as neatly as possible. It certainly needs doing because this is obviously not working what they've done. Let's have a look on the other side. Yeah, see again, 2 pads missing there. That pad's been torn and patched up. So it's a shame, but we'll make it as nice as we can and we'll get it working properly. Okay, so the 4401 went in relatively well. The middle pin we've actually touched up from the top to make sure it's joined onto the pad at the top because the through hole's missing. The tip 122, basically what we've had to do is bend one leg this way and we've anchored it down onto this pad solidly. We've bent one leg this way and we've joined it onto the 4401. That's a nice solid connection there as well. And then with this pad we've actually soldered it from the top onto that track, done it nice and neatly, no big blobs shorting things out this time. And we're just going to test that's all fine. But we've pretty much as neat as we possibly can considering the damage has already been done. And that should be right. So we'll test that out. We'll also check out all these solenoid connectors and reflow them as necessary. Alright, so we've got the test ROM in, pulsing all the PIA outputs, and this transistor relates to special coil drive number 5, which relates to this switch input here, which we have grounded. So ground lead going over to there, and we will get an output on pin 8 here, which relates to this Q12 here, which we just replaced. So, with the logic probe, when you hear the clicking noise, that's basically the blanking signal being enabled. So, at the same time the blanking is enabled, you should see the ground drive. So there you go. That transistor is now working with the switched input. Now if we take off the ground lead, so just to make sure it stops working when it's not being switched, it's not shorted on, test again, and we get nothing. So that is now working. And hey, while we're on the test bench with this board, let's install an NVRAM. This is the Phantom of the Opera CPU board. Let's get this wire tie off, get these batteries out, as we're not going to use these ever again. Once we've installed the NVRAM, the game never ever needs batteries. So, take that off. Old cable ties off and in the bin. Right, what we need to do, we need a small jumper wire over D23. That's to remove the voltage drop from the circuit. We're going to remove this RAM here, and we are going to install one of these NVRAM modules. So this is a square pin one because we've got a square pin socket, and that basically goes in this way round, making sure to line the notch here with the notch here. So basically take that out, put that in, jumper across there. Then what we'll do, after we've made the modification, we'll stick a little sticker on saying do not install batteries, so that people don't install batteries again. While that jumper is in place, you cannot put batteries on. If you need to ever revert back to the original RAM for whatever reason, you will need to take or cut off that jumper wire there. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go, nice little jumper wire over the diode there. I've done it on the top in this instance, but you can, if you want to hide it, do it on the back of the board. But this to me makes it obvious that that diode has been bypassed. And there we have it, NVRAM module installed. I've put the Phantom of the Opera ROMs back in, labelled them up, put the warning label on for not installing batteries. You can see the jumper there. And again, no more batteries in this game ever again. Right, and we've got the Phantom of the Opera PCB board now. So let's have a look at this and we'll go through test all transistors, regulators, everything to make sure everything's working. I think we've got some suspicious looking fuses, so as usual, check all fuses because they're likely to be wrong. And we'll also test all the diodes and the resistors. Yeah, the board's pretty much testing good. The other thing we've got to tidy up is some horrible messy reflow that someone's done on this. There's too much solder on there, they're very close to shorts, and it's got brown flux all over it. Clean all that off, put some fresh solder on and clean off the flux, and that should be nice. Same with a couple of these other ones, they're the same. So we'll get this little connectors looking good on this. And there you have it, that's the much neater version of reflowing these joints. And you just knew that that was going to be the wrong fuse, as it's got some sort of ceramic lining. That's a 15 amp, and these should be 5, so I've just played, that was in that position there. So put them all in 5s, and that's a 3 amp there. That's all fine now. I think this board should be good. Right, so we've got the Phantom board stuck in this Time Machine, as this is a Revision 2 game as well. Just show that. Obviously I had to swap in the Time Machine ROMs. We'll go through all the tests, make sure everything's working, and we'll also test the NVRAM as well, so we'll put some data in, switch the machine off for a period of time, and then make sure it saves the data. Okay, we've got a problem, which surprises me, because I did test everything on the bench, but this slingshot here locks on. Obviously I don't want to leave that on, because that will cause damage. Probably has already half melted my coil. So yeah, something's shorting on. Right, so I fixed the board. Basically the TIP 122 had shorted out, and let's find out why. It's because the coil diode is missing on this slingshot. Funny enough, my other board didn't have that problem. It didn't seem to kill the transistor, but that definitely could kill the transistor, so we need to fix that immediately before powering this up. That's quite annoying. Right, no locked coils this time. Let's test out these kickers. Yep. Pop bumpers. Ow, nearly got myself with that one. Yeah. All the reflexive solenoids are working fine. Let's just run through the rest of the tests in the game, make sure everything's good with the CPU board and it's packed up and ready to go to the customer. Okay, so I've just finished testing everything: display test, sound test, solenoid test, switch test, lamp test, everything all checks out fine. Oh, coil test of course. And I manually checked all the reflexive solenoids. So, ready to pack up and deliver to the customer. Right, unfortunately not being able to get the Phantom of the Opera working, as the power supply has got some burning on it. Basically that capacitor there has leaked all over these components here, and they've all been arcing away and burnt the tracks away. So, I mean, it's possibly repairable. We can take everything off and sand it down, but the best course of action looks to be replace the power supply entirely.